These are ours.
No, this is the one.
They look like ours. Just show me.
This is the
Okay. This looks different.
I'll print them on.
And I'll check one out for questions. You ready, Mike?
Good.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name is Cliff Weiner. I'm president of the POA. First on our agenda is we're going to rise for the pledge to the flag and remain standing for a moment of silence for our first responders and military personnel. Thank you. Please be seated. Next on the agenda is the reading of our minutes by our Secretary Rep Benson.
All right, thank you, Cliff. As we do with membership meetings here, we're trying to address some of the highlights of some of our meetings, previous meetings that we have brought to your attention to then have approval for as we have to do here. So we have to go back into the April time period because I was missing a couple months, and so we didn't cover meetings. So I'm just going to cover a couple of key points here on those meetings, and most of the key points are related to either questions that the audience asked or the speaker, and some of the key points from the speaker. So one of the things that was asked was in April 3rd's meeting, was the emergency radio or weather radio still work? And the answer was yes, and you can get the village's public safety department to reprogram any older radio if necessary. Then we had Miss Lisa Hunker, who is the owner of Your Key for Senior Living Options and lives in the villages and started a business about 8 years ago because there was no area council on aging in this area. She started with about 300 families, and now with her staff has about 1,000 families that she takes care of. Senior Living Advisors put together all the pieces of the puzzle for families, simplify the search process, help you get your ducks in a row, and plan for the future in a crisis. They provide help for yourself, care partner, or adult children in finding the resources, figuring out the costs and budgets, providing guidance and support, evaluating long-term care needs, factoring in veterans aid and attendance benefits, and finding the support groups that would help in helping anyone that has like dementia going on or other things where they need to now get more assisted living. They provide expert guidance every step of the way at no cost to families. They get paid by senior living facilities when a person that they're helping moves into that facility. Plan before a crisis, circle of support informed, medical information, legal papers, financial accounts, passwords, and area resources updated are all the key points to it, and then keep an emergency binder. So why would you move? Quality of life, medical comorbidity, personal safety, home safety, medication management, nutrition management, transportation, finances, or just for friendship? And how about where to get the funds from? Social Security, pension savings, sale of a home, long-term care insurance, aid and attendance benefits, which is a wartime veteran and surviving spouse over 65, Medicaid waiver program, no more than $2,000 in total assets, $2,000 per month pension. And they do have a free kit that you can get from their website. So if you go to yourkeyseniorlivingoptions.com, you can get the information from there. And that sort of covers both the April 15th meeting also, because she spoke here and she spoke at Everglades for our 2 meetings in April. Then in May, we had Dr. John Young, who's from the Young Foundational Health Center, and he talked about finding better ways to treat patients via a stem cell therapy while cutting patients' costs. His main discussion points were related to stroke and dementia in May. He said immunomodulators via an injection 1/4 inch under the skin in the back allow the drug to get through the blood-brain barrier. Dr. Young said that one of the doctor's patients that did this and had a severe stroke received the medication and had successful recovery from that stroke. Dr. Young mentioned that cases that he has provided the immunomodulator drug to have had about a 70% success rate related to stroke victims as he's dealt with too. With a stroke, the rate of dementia goes up about 25%. So he gave a Parkinson's Lewy body patients umbilical cord stem cells through the ventricular vascular system, and then some cord blood stem cells, and after about 16 weeks, the patient was much improved. As he sees it, there are other ways to treat conditions, such as stroke, that are targeted at the cell membrane of the immune system, and that they can look to improve overall health. I expect to see more in the chem bio process in the next 7 to 10 years. And that was basically most of the information related to those 3 meetings.
Thanks, Rep. Our treasurer is not here tonight, so I will give you a brief treasurer's report. We had expenses of $22,666.85, an income of $10,560.42 last month. So we had a deficit of $12,106.43. If you've been here before, you know that most of our advertising money comes in November and December when most of our ads renew. So this is normal for this time of the year. Okay, something I started to do a while back is introduce supervisors or people that are on other boards in the villages. So in attendance, our secretary who just was here, Rep Benson is on the AAC board, Amenity Authority. Dan Warren, who's sitting right here, is on the NSCUD board. Mark Hayes, which is right there, is on the District 4 Board of Supervisors. I am on the District 4 Board of Supervisors, and our editor, Deb Butterfield, is the Sumter County Commissioner. So these are some of the people that do other things besides belonging to the POA. Trying to make this place a better place. So now we're going to do something that now we're going to do, because you all know that come September, the end of September, the bullet will not be delivered to your driveway anymore. We're going to a new style. It's going to be, we're calling it our POA magazine. It's going to be electronically available on our website, or you can have it emailed to you. But we need to show people, hopefully, how easy it can be to register or sign up or change what you get. If you're not getting the bulletin now electronically, you want to go online and change the information yourself. Where'd Deb go? Oh, okay. Okay, Deb, you're up.
Sure. Good evening. So, while we still have a printed bulletin, I want you to know that over the next several months, while we're still printing, we will continue to print the instructions in this bulletin on how you can get on the new website and how you can sign up for your e-delivery. This is the new website. It has launched over this past month. We're still tweaking it and making some changes to it. But you can see it says POA Magazine coming October 2025, and that will be coming out on the first day of every month. So we'll no longer be tied to a print schedule. We'll no longer be tied to the first Tuesday of the month. It'll be on the first of every month that you will receive it. It will be posted on our website. If you sign up with your email, you will be able to get notified that the bulletin or that the magazine is ready for viewing, and then it'll connect you directly to the magazine and you can begin reading it. So this is the new website. I think it's a little bit hard to see, but up at the top is the navigation bar. I don't know if you can even see my cursor. If I can see my cursor. I want to just focus on one section where it says Join POA. Now, I'm sure you can't see that drop-down menu, but there are 3 ways you can go on here. You can check your member status. We get a lot of phone calls. Is my membership current? Do I owe you for a renewal? What's my status? You'll be able to check that on this website very easily by clicking on that button right there. All you will do is go in and enter your email address. I will do. On my little extensions. Okay, well, that's not working. When that happens. It's in development, that's right. But you should be able to put your address in there and it will immediately take you to a site where you can, it will tell you what your status is. You can, I'm gonna go to the last one on the list, which is register as a member. So if you're not a member and you want to sign up to be a member, the way to do it going forward is going to be on this website. We're not going to have a printed membership application for you to send in. It will all be done on this website. It will all be very secure as you go through. See if this one works. Okay, it does. All right, so it gives you a list of the member benefits there. Boy, this is really small, but there are a number of fields, obviously, to fill out. And here's the second thing to know. Whether you're signing up as a member, if you have another person in the household, as we have several hundred people who want to get their own email because they say, my husband will delete it, or my wife will delete it. I want my own. So that you can have your own copy of it. This will give you the opportunity on your membership form to register both people in the household with all the information. So get your own emails. And then, if there is someone who, for some reason, unbeknownst or understandable by us, chooses not to be a member for $15 a year, you can register as a guest and get the bulletin. So you would, under Join POA, click on the Register as a Guest, and it will give you the same information fields to fill out. It's going to be very simple. You can go on here to renew, you can make your payment on here. It's all going to work beautifully. Make sense? Questions? Yes, sir.
Is it simply villagespoa.org?
It will work with villagespoa.org, and it will also work when we get it set up. If the old website will point to the new website, poaforus.org. Yes.
Question. I was receiving the articles in my driveway before I became a member. Then I became a member. Can you elaborate? What is the point? It's not the $15, right? What is the point of being a member versus non-members?
We have some member-only activities, like a shredding event. You have to be a member to participate in that. We may be doing more events in the future where you'll either get a member discount. We did have a discount partner program, which we're going to be revamping, where you would get, you'd be able to show your membership card for the POA and get a discount for businesses that were participating. So there were other opportunities. Yes? We'll still have you'll still be able to connect with a help desk, so we can help you.
There is a link.
There's a link for it. If you have a problem connecting, there's a. Pardon me? Okay, well then you can call or you can send in your information and we'll get you set up.
See me after the meeting and we have a new way to get you back in.
The other thing I just want to mention is that for our October meeting, as you may have seen in the current bulletin, we're going to have a celebration of the POA's 50th anniversary. The POA is the oldest resident lifestyle group in the Villages, and we're going to be set up in this room, and it's going to be a business expo. So our advertisers who are with us in the bulletin and will be advertisers with us in the magazine will have booths, and we'll have giveaways and drawings, and will also be available to help you if you've had difficulty getting signed up with your email address. So make sure you mark your calendar for that October event. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thanks.
I just have to say one thing about this new website. When you fill out the forms that are required, whether you're a guest or you're a member, you need to fill out everything that's got a star next to it. Because of the security system that we put in this, it will not let us enter any information if all of those boxes are not filled out. It's for your protection and your safety that we did that. So if you don't have an email address, I'm sorry, but we can't help you become a member, because this whole system is driven over email addresses, because every email address is unique. There can only be one. So that's the most important part of the whole thing, just so you know. And if you have any trouble, I do have a link on this new website that I can send you that will send you a password or reset your password if you can't get in. So I just need your name and I can take care of that. So if you have any questions, see me after the meeting. There'll be lots more information coming in the bulletin in future months. At the back tables, we have our friends from Seniors versus Crime. Dr. Curtis has somebody back there, Sutton Cole's back there, Realty Execs is back there, and Rate Reverse is back there, who's got the giveaway, which we'll do it toward the end of the meeting. As you know, our meetings are video recorded and are streamed live on our Facebook page. So if you can't make a meeting, you can always go on and look at it while we're here, or you can look at it tomorrow. It will be on our Facebook page, POA of the Villages. Deb talked about the changes, so how many people here have e-notification from district? Well, there's not a lot of hands up, but I'm going to tell you guys, we're going into hurricane season. We're actually in hurricane season, but we haven't had these storms yet. You really need to sign up for e-notification. You will get, and you can pick and choose what you want to be notified of. But I will tell you, when there's a storm coming, you're going to get more information than you want. It's really, really kind of important to keep you guys safe and not have any property damage if at all possible. So it's easy to do. Go to districtgov.org, click on the link and follow it through. Okay, next is what we call our open forum. So if you have a question you want to ask us that doesn't pertain to our speaker tonight, because Dr. Curtis will answer all the questions after his great talk. Raise your hand. Someone will come to you with a mic and ask us your question. If we don't have an answer, we'll get one for you and let you know. Wow, again. This in 10 years, this doesn't happen very often where nobody asks a question, but that's a good thing. Okay, just for your information, in July we have two meetings, one at Evergreen on July 3rd, and our speaker will be Dr. John Young, and in July here, Bradley Arnold, the Sumter County Administrator, will be talking about the Sumter County 2025-2026 budget. I will tell you that the budget workshop is that morning, and then he will be here that night, so you'll get the information hot off the press. And that's the second year in a row it's worked like that. It was like that last year, too. And then our August meeting is canceled, and in September we have Dr. Norman Anderson, who over the many years has done many presentations. So nobody has any questions, so we'll proceed with Dr. Curtis. Dr. Curtis, you're up. And I got to tell you that Dr. Curtis and I have become friends. I've seen his presentations, and they're awesome. So, go for it.
I got to get this up first.
Okay.
There we go. Can you hear me okay? Yep. All right, good. Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me, Cliff. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Deb. So I'm Dr. Curtis, and I've been doing Alzheimer's research for about 30 years, and originally from Ohio, then served 6 years in the U.S. Navy, primarily Washington, D.C. Go Navy, thank you for your service. And then back to Ohio for medical school, and then to Florida Hospital to train in 1996. And tonight, we're going to do a brief update on Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and brain health, and I've been here in the Villages since '08. So the first thing that I want to cover is a recent article in the Wall Street Journal from last November, 5 months ago. And this was a fascinating article. The University of Michigan looked at people as they aged from 65 to 85. They followed them for 20 years. And every year they had to fill out memory reports, how their memory was doing. And they looked at their bank account. They looked at their finances. And this is what they found. Those people, as they aged, who had memory problems, lost an average of $31,000 compared to those who did not have memory problems. So the numbers, out of 20,000 people that they followed, about 5,000 of them ended up having some pretty significant memory problems. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Here, is this? Okay. And so those 5,000 people ended up losing an average of $31,000 compared to people without memory problems. And that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was that 80% of the people with memory problems denied they even had a memory problem. They simply told the doctor every year, oh, my memory's just like it was last year. Yet they were having significant memory problems as they aged. So the point of that article is please see your doctor. Please ask him or her for a memory test every year. Get your memory checked because you may not realize you're having a memory problem. And quite frankly, you don't want to lose $31,000. Who wants, raise your hand if you want to give away $31,000. Cliff, write down the name. Just in case. No one does, right? So please get your memory checked, okay? All right. Now, we'll move on to this. Breaking news, headline news. Okay, raise your hand if you've heard of Alzheimer's disease. 6, 7, 28. Okay, everyone. All right, so last week, the world's first blood test, FDA-approved blood test to diagnose Alzheimer's disease. I mean, think about that for a second. I've been doing this research for 30 years. 30 years ago, do you know how we diagnosed Alzheimer's disease 30 years ago? Autopsy. That's right. So raise your hand if you want to be diagnosed with an autopsy or a blood test. Blood test. Who says blood test? Okay, blood test wins. Right. 30 years ago was an autopsy. About 20 years ago, it was spinal fluid. Who wants to give spinal fluid? Raise your hand. Come see me after. No. And then about 15 years ago at the University of Pittsburgh, they invented a PET scan so we could do it with a scan. And now in 2025, the world's first blood test to aid in the diagnosis in people with memory problems, okay? This is really, really a big deal. And the next hurdle, I think, I'm going to cover this in a little while, but I have a slide. Have you heard of Michael J. Fox? So Michael J. Fox Foundation, right? He has Parkinson's disease. He's had it for over 30 years. Well, last year, in combination with University of Pennsylvania and a few other great universities, they discovered the world's first biomarker test for Parkinson's. So now, for the first time ever, we can diagnose Parkinson's disease with it. Now that is still a spinal fluid test. They're a little behind us in Parkinson's and behind us Alzheimer's people. But it's important. It's important. We had no way of diagnosing Parkinson's disease while someone was alive. Truly, what we do is we go by symptoms, and we just we make the diagnosis that way. But now there is a spinal fluid test for Parkinson's, and that's going to be a really big deal as we advance into the future. So I'll cover this briefly. The Alzheimer's disease timeline. Alzheimer's disease goes all the way back to 1850 with the birth of a little girl in Germany. She happens to have a memory problem. She runs into Dr. Alzheimer in Germany around 1899 and ends up, he looks in her brain in 1905 and publishes what he found, and that became known as Alzheimer's disease in 1915. So we've known about this for a long time. Parkinson's goes back even further, by the way. Essentially, I'll jump through this and just tell you that we know that in the 1980s we figured out that what Dr. Alzheimer had found in the brain was actually the stuff called amyloid and tau. And it's also important to note on this timeline that in 2023 we had the world's first medicine approved that removes the stuff we call amyloid in the brain and slows the progression of Alzheimer's disease. So the world's first medicine to slow the progression of Alzheimer's disease is now on the market and is in active use throughout the country. Okay, let's take a step back though briefly and talk about the term dementia. Have you heard of dementia? Okay, so dementia simply means you have a memory problem that's impacting your daily life. There are 30 or 40 different causes of dementia. Alzheimer's disease makes up the majority of cases. Around 60 to 80% of our cases are due to the buildup of amyloid, Alzheimer's disease. But you can have little tiny strokes, we call that vascular dementia. You can have too much fluid in the brain, we call that hydrocephalus. And have you remember Robin Williams, the famous comedian? Robin Williams had Lewy body dementia, which is not the same thing as Alzheimer's. And do you know who Bruce Willis is, the famous actor? So Bruce Willis has frontotemporal dementia, which is also not caused by the same thing as Alzheimer's, and it's a different form. Here's another way of looking at it. The dementia is just the umbrella term, and there are all these different types of dementia that we go through when somebody comes to see me as an Alzheimer's dementia expert. Risk factors. Number one risk factor for Alzheimer's is age. Raise your hand if you're getting older. Okay. Well, we all have that risk factor. Okay, some of us are not. Good for you. Don't change. But most of us are getting older, so we do have that risk factor. Number one risk factor is age. Right now in the United States, we have about 60 million people over the age of 65. 60 million. Guess how many we're going to have in about 25 years? Guess, somebody guess. 90 million people over the age of 65. And I just found out this morning, Cliff told me, half of those people are moving to the villages. So I wouldn't laugh at that, because I think it's really going to happen. I think it's really going to happen. So we're going to go from 60 million to 90 million, and that's a lot of people. Now, genetics of Alzheimer's disease. Yes, 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 yes. Alzheimer's disease runs in families. About 70% of our cases are related to genes. So we ask a lot of questions about genetics in our clinic. And yeah, 70%. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to tell you about. Not now. At the end, if we have time, we'll talk a little bit more about genetics. As opposed to something like Parkinson's disease, which tends not to be genetically related. Okay, that might be more environmental of a cause. Okay, let's talk about the brain for just a split second. You have about 100 billion brain cells. Billion. If I held a grain of sand on my fingertip, you could fit about 75,000 brain cells in that little grain of sand. I'm telling you that because we're going to talk about really tiny things here in a few seconds. By the way, have you heard of blood? Raise your hand if you've heard of blood. Okay, everybody's heard of blood. Blood is red. Why? Because of red blood cells, right? Have you heard of red blood cells? Guess how many red blood cells you have in your body? 35 trillion red blood cells. So these things in our body are really, really small. And I'm only bringing this up because I really want us to understand we're going to deep dive into that here in a minute. Okay, on your left is Auguste Dieter, born in 1850 in Germany. She became a seamstress, she got married, she was a wonderful housewife, and in her late 40s, she started having memory problems. The family was concerned. They took her to see the guy on the right, Dr. Alzheimer, in around 1899. She got worse over the next couple of years. Dr. Alzheimer admitted her to his hospital around 1904. She became very severe, and a year later she developed a blood sore infection, and she died of a blood infection. And Dr. Alzheimer looked in her brain, and in 1906, this is what he published. Okay, on the left are normal brain cells. On the left, healthy brain cells with nice, healthy surrounding tissue. On the right is what Dr. Alzheimer saw and reported in 1906. Of course, he had no idea what that stuff was that he saw. These plaques and tangles. The reason I told you about that really small stuff is that's how small this stuff is. Remember, you have 100 billion brain cells, and this plaque surrounds the brain cells, so it's really tiny. And these tangles inside of the brain cells, that's caused by a problem with tau protein, and outside of the brain cells, there's this buildup of amyloid. Now, that is Alzheimer's disease. Now we can detect that stuff with a blood test, which is really, really amazing and going to be really, really important as we move forward. I will skip the next part, but this is a drawing of what Dr. Alzheimer would have drawn in 1906, showing some plaque and some blood cells and things like that in the brain. Okay, what are amyloid and tau, those little things? Well, we believe that they're normal parts of the brain, but something happens and then they become abnormal and they start to clump together, just like cholesterol does. Cholesterol is normal, but it clumps together in the arteries around our heart and gives us heart attacks. Number one killer of men and women. Please see your doctor and get your heart checked, okay? Please. So that's what we believe amyloid and tau are, and we believe that those can be removed, which that's what we've done now. So this slide right here is just slightly different. I'm going to go off topic for just a second and talk about, have you heard of Lou Gehrig's disease? Okay, have you heard of Parkinson's disease? And of course I mentioned Lewy body dementia, Alzheimer's disease. Well, this is a slide showing all of these diseases are kind of related in the fact that they all involve something abnormal clumping together in the wrong place at the wrong time. In Alzheimer's disease, amyloid clumps together. In Parkinson's disease, this stuff called alpha-syn clumps together in the motor part of our brain. In Lou Gehrig's disease, there's this thing called TDP-43 that clumps together in the spinal cord, damaging our ability to send signals up and down. And in Lewy body dementia, there's another thing. And Bruce Willis, who suffers from frontotemporal dementia, that is indeed a different form of TDP-43 building up in the frontal and the temporal, the sides of his brain. That's what gives him the speech problem and those dementia symptoms. Any questions at the end? Only at the end. Okay. So usually I stop and ask if anyone has questions, but we'll cover that at the end. Okay. So I'll skip that. And I will move into diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. So we talk about symptoms, we do a physical exam, we rule out other causes in that exam. We look at blood and urine and an MRI, we look for brain tumors or little strokes, things like that. And really up until last week, what we really wanted was a PET scan. And we still do them a lot, but on the left is someone without amyloid in their brain, and on the right is a scan of someone with amyloid in their brain. We give a little tracer for that scan, and that tracer circulates and only binds amyloid in the brain, and it lights up like that. So that's what we see when we look for amyloid. And sure enough, those new medicines remove that amyloid. So we can now take a brain that's on the right, and we can completely move it over to the left. Now, that does not halt or reverse the progression of Alzheimer's. It only slows the progression of Alzheimer's. It gets complicated, but it's probably because once the amyloid is there, it causes some other problems which we're currently addressing in research. Does that make sense? But we're getting there. We're getting better and better and closer and closer. Okay. And that's the blood test that we talked about. All right, ready for the next slide? Because it's good. It's really good. All right, raise your hand. This is a moment of truth. We're in a circle of trust here. Raise your hand if you've ever had a senior moment. 6, 7, 28. Okay, everybody. All right, good. Well, guess what? You want the good news or the bad news? All right, well, here's the good news. We all have senior moments. Everybody has senior moments. Raise your hand if your hair today looks like it did when you were in high school. All right, yeah, well, you're only 22. Carly back there, she raised her hand. Show off. Well, for the rest of us, our hair doesn't look the same, our bones don't look the same, our muscles don't look the same as they did in high school, and our brains don't look the same. So our brains shrink just like the rest of us, starting at around age 50 to 55. So everyone loses a little bit of memory as they age. So please, I don't want you to panic when you walk in the room and you can't remember why you walked in the room. It's okay. Everybody does it. It's totally normal. Now, the bad news to that is it also could be the first warning sign of Alzheimer's. So, we don't know. We do want you to get checked out, see your doctor, get an evaluation, please, or come see us, and we're happy to see you. So, we might want to move into this question, though. When does Alzheimer's actually begin? Speaking of senior moments. Well, we now know that it does start about 20 years before the symptoms. That amyloid starts building up about 20 years before the symptoms. Now, got some good news coming. I like to give you bad news and good news. So, got some good news coming. So, remember this stuff, this amyloid I showed you earlier, building up? So, it turns out that stuff starts building up about 20 years before you get symptoms. Now, we might want to ask this question then. Well, okay, if that stuff starts building up 20 years before the symptoms, and we have a medicine that removes that stuff, what if you gave it to people before they got symptoms? And we have a PET scan that can detect that stuff 10 years, 15 years before the symptoms. It turns out the blood test does too, but that's a whole nother story. So, why don't we talk about, can you prevent Alzheimer's disease? Well, it turns out that right now, we are doing a study for that, a research study. It's being done all over the United States. It's called the AHEAD trial. It's paid for by the US government, and this is what we did. About 5 years ago, we ran ads in the newspaper. Matter of fact, you may have seen our ad. You may have actually screened for the study. And what we did all over the country was we found people that wanted to volunteer for a PET scan. They had to have normal memory. Out of around 12,000 people that signed up for the study, about 4,000, 5,000 got a PET scan, and around 2,000 people qualified. So right now, we don't need anyone else. The study's full. It's ongoing, and this is what it's doing. There are 2,000 Americans, all with a PET scan full of amyloid. Half of them are getting a placebo for 4 years, meaning they're not getting anything. They come into the clinic once a month for 4 years, and they get salt water. The other half are getting that new drug that removes amyloid out of their brain. And the whole goal of the study is to show, if it works, that by removing that amyloid before they get symptoms, that those people they do not go on to develop Alzheimer's disease. Isn't that fascinating? I mean, that study is ongoing. It's fully enrolled. There's 2,000 Americans in that study. It's funded by the NIH. It's run through Harvard and University of Southern California. And it's being done at 80 research centers around the country, including me. I'm one of the doctors on that research study. This is important research. It's being done here in the villages. And in about 4 years, Cliff, when I come back, we will be talking about the results of that study. Isn't that fascinating? We could be talking about the end of Alzheimer's disease. We don't know yet. That's why we do this research. We have no idea if it works, but we hope it does. But that's where we are. That's the level of where we are right now. Okay, we'll move on from there. So, next question. And I'll wrap it up in around 10 minutes, 5 minutes. I have a question for you. Do you think you can improve your brain health?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a guest speaker here to help us just talk about it. So if Arnold Schwarzenegger walked up on this stage and said to each one of you, hey, meet me in the gym 9 o'clock every day for the next 6 months, we're going to lift weights, do you think in 6 months you would be stronger? Yes. If you were 105 years old, would you be stronger in 6 months? Yes, you would be. If an Olympic marathoner came in and said, when Arnold's done with you at 10 o'clock, we're going to go for a walk or a run, or we're going to stair step, or we're going to ride a bike, we're going to do some kind of cardio exercise, do you think in 6 months that your lungs and legs and your heart would be a little stronger? Yes, even if you're 120 years old, it would work. So the question on scientists, brain scientists' minds have been, that was a pun, by the way. Has been, well, does exercise, how can we improve the brain? If we can improve our body so much, all our organs, everything, through this exercise and other things, can we improve our brain health? The answer turns out to be yes. You guys probably knew the answer was yes, but you can. And I'm going to quickly cover a couple of ways, 3 ways that you can improve your brain health. And these are no-brainers. Sorry, I could say. Okay, let's talk about exercise briefly, because we know from many studies, one huge study looking at 16 studies showed a 28% reduction in Alzheimer's risk with some exercise. And another study in the UK, 78,000 folks, 25% reduction in dementia risk with only 3,800 steps a day. You don't need that 10,000. Well, shoot for 10, but 3,800 works. So, and then we had some really smart people at MIT. Have you heard of MIT? Really smart people there. A paper released, actually this was in November, I haven't updated my slides. During exercise, our muscles release hormones that improve brain health and brain health. And so we're seeing all these important studies show exercise, but raise your hand if you want to exercise 4 hours a week. Very few people. Okay, couple, and I'm proud of you. But I've got a better answer for you. So researchers have been trying to figure out how little exercise we can do and still improve our brain health. Slow brain shrinking. All right, that's what I would want to know. Am I doing the right thing, and am I doing it for long enough? Well, guess what? You're going to love this. It turns out that if you engage in moderate exercise, and I will tell you, I'll explain that in a second, moderate exercise for 25 minutes a week, you can, remember I told you your brains are shrinking? That study with 10,000 people looked at volume MRIs, volume of the brain, and if people could engage in 25 minutes a week of moderate exercise, that's the key word, which I'll get to in a second, you slow that shrinking down. And you do better on memory tests, so you actually improve your memory. What is moderate exercise? Here's the only hard part. 25 minutes a week of moderate exercise. Please see your doctor. Make sure you're healthy enough for moderate exercise. But I'm going to give you 2 definitions. A, it's where you're working out hard enough that it's a little hard to finish your sentence to the person working out next to you, okay? That is called perceived exertion. And if you can, the way I like to explain it, if you're going to go for a walk, just kind of warm up for 10 minutes with a normal walk, and then set your watch and get ready and go for 10 minutes to that point of exercise difficulty where having a conversation with the person next to you is you have to strain to get the last few words out. 10 minutes of that, and then cool down. Do that 3 times a week. And you will slow the rate of shrinking of your brain, and you will, and that's proven in that research study, and you will improve your memory. You will have sharper memory and improve your brain health. So now, for you exercise people out there, there's actually a scientific formula to know that you're in the state of moderate exercise. Okay, and this is an old-time proven method. It's essentially 220 minus your age times 60 to 70%. So, for example, if you are 80 years old, take 220 minus 80 and you get 140. Multiply that by 65 to 70% and you get 84 to 105. So you want your heart rate in that moderate range, targeting, if you're 80 years old, 84 to 105. And that's how you know you're in the moderate range of exercise. Does that make sense? By the way, that is, you could just Google moderate exercise heart rate and you can find that. Please see your doctor, make sure you're healthy enough for that level of exercise. But the beautiful thing is you can get improved brain health, body health, heart health, everything in as little as 30 minutes a week. They call this essentially high intensity exercise, but it's not that high intensity. It's actually just moderate. And I'll take questions on that as well at the end. Okay, so exercise, improve your brain health, and then you won't have Arnold coming after you. Sleep, I'm not really going to cover sleep here, but I just want you to know that sleep is important. Please try to get whatever amount of sleep that makes you feel rested the next day. You'll always hear the term 8 hours or 9 hours, 7 hours. Everyone's a little bit different, but try to get an amount of sleep to where you feel rested the next day. Okay, we all have sleep problems. I wake up once to twice a night, so I'm sure other people share that with me in here. But try to get enough sleep to where you feel rested. And we do know that, the better sleep you get, it does seem to lower your risk of dementia. We don't know how much yet. That's a little tricky to understand, and I won't go into detail on that unless you ask me questions about it. Because this is what I want to cover next. Potentially the easiest and best way to improve your brain health. Have you heard of the Mediterranean diet? Okay, Mediterranean diet. Now, what's the good thing? Well, here's the Mediterranean diet. Whole grains, lots of fresh fruits and vegetables, beans, nuts, legumes, olive oil, 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 olive oil. Why did I say that? Harvard University, last year, 1 year ago, published a study looking at 92,000 people over 30 years. These are people that are enrolled in the Harvard Aging Brain Study up in Massachusetts. And they concluded that if you can average a teaspoon of extra virgin olive oil a day, you will have a 30% lower risk of dementia. I will say it again. And by the way, it did not matter if you had other risk factors, meaning that you maybe didn't exercise, maybe you ate cheeseburgers all day long. The point is if you got that olive oil, a teaspoon and a quarter of olive oil a day, average, you had a 30% lower reduction in your risk of getting dementia. Isn't that fascinating? Now, scientists believe they know why. The long story short is there's a thing called a polyphenol, which is a plant antioxidant, and it turns out that olives and olive oil are loaded with polyphenols. They boost your immunity, they improve your circulation, they lower your cancer risk, etc. So olive oil, it turns out, is a really important substance, really important. Now, back to the Mediterranean diet. They get most of their protein from fish, poultry, eggs. Here's the bad news about a Mediterranean diet. No red meat, no butter. That's strike 2. Strike 3 is no fried foods. So I don't know about you, but that's pretty tough for me, right? Because butter's probably my favorite food on earth. And so a true Mediterranean diet's definitely hard to follow for Americans. and for actually most of the Western world. So scientists start, oh, by the way, in the Mediterranean diet, they have a little bit of wine. I don't recommend wine as part of the Mediterranean diet, but if you read about a true Mediterranean diet, they do that. So just threw that in there. So, but scientists said, well, is there a better way? Is there a better way to get the same benefits of a Mediterranean diet without having to actually eat a Mediterranean diet? And it turns out there is. Invented about 25, 30 years ago is something called the MIND diet. Have you heard of that? It stands for Mediterranean Interventional Neurodegenerative Delay Diet. And it is primarily a Mediterranean diet with more green leafy vegetables. They allow a tablespoon of butter every day. They allow some fried foods. And they allow more red meat than a true Mediterranean diet. And you still get all the benefits of a Mediterranean diet. Now, the MIND diet is easier to follow than a true Mediterranean diet. The MIND diet is associated with this when it comes to Alzheimer's disease. If you can follow a MIND diet, roughly, you don't have to follow it perfectly, you can slow memory loss, reduce your chance of Alzheimer's disease. You will have greater brain volume in studies done. In autopsy studies, they have actually shown a lower amount of amyloid and tau in patients with Alzheimer's disease. But in people that follow the MIND diet, they actually have lower amounts of amyloid and tau, which may indicate a slower course. We don't know for sure. We're still trying to figure that out. But it's a really important way, and it's not a diet. By the way, all the guys always say, well, I can't fill up on salad. Yes, actually you can. You can eat plenty of greens and vegetables and other things like that. 5 servings a day of vegetables, and yes, you can fill up. You do get hungrier more quickly, but still, the MIND diet is the way to go. And now I will take questions, and now you guys know everything there is to know. How's my time?
Oh, you're fine.
Good. All right. So, by the way, all of these slides are on my website. I actually have about 100 slides. I took out a lot of them tonight. I didn't want to bore you guys, but there's a lot more information on my website, craigcurtismd.com, and so you'll have all that information. Yes, ma'am.
Wait, we're gonna go over here with the mic, so that it gets picked up.
Doctor, I have a question. As a rule of thumb, everybody in this room is over 55, some in their 90s. Can we say that everyone in that age group has some amyloid in their brain?
Yeah, that's a great question. So amyloid is normal. We have it throughout our body. But the amyloid that causes Alzheimer's disease is a different form of it. It's 42 amino acids long. So the answer is partially correct, but you shouldn't have the pathological form of amyloid in your brain. So that's a great question. Yes?
I have a question about the olive oil.
You have a question about the olive oil?
We need to be able to get up on that curve.
I have a question about the olive oil. My grandson just got back from Europe, and the olive oil that you can get in Italy is nothing like the olive oil you get here in these plastic bottles. Can you address what kind of olive oil you get in the States that's good for you? And
Yes, partially, I can. So, there's great olive oil grown in California. I tend to buy all mine now from California grown. It comes in glass bottles. They sell it at Publix, that's where I buy it. But I do look for a California grown olive oil. In Europe, they have really good olive oils out of Spain and out of Italy. So I think as long as you know where the olive oil is coming from, I think you're fine with any extra virgin olive oil. Now, the reason it's extra virgin,
Glass bottle, not plastic.
well, you know, the whole microplastics debate is raging right now, and the truth is we don't really know the long-term consequences of plastic. It's kind of hard to avoid. We don't know if it's heating plastic that really is what breaks it into the microparticles, and that's an issue. That's still being debated. So I can't tell you that. I don't think I can honestly say that olive oil in plastic is not good for you. I don't think I'll go that far. But what I would say is try to get it in glass or metal containers, and just be wary of the plastic. But if that's all I have, I will gladly take it out of a plastic bottle. I think some of that better than none at all, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Okay.
Doctor, I'd like to clarify the moderate exercise slide. The second bullet indicates that just brisk. Was that referring to a brisk walk as an element, or what was it referring to?
Yeah, so some people associate moderate with brisk, but it's got to be a brisk walk, right? So if we go for a walk together and we say, oh, look at the beautiful birds, oh, that tree is, I love that tree. That's not, when we're walking together, that's not going to cut it. It has to be to where I can barely finish my sentence to you, like, yeah, that bird, yeah, that one, I've seen that here before.
I have never achieved that. However, that latter part, that indicator, however, I chose in my definition of a brisk walk to be a military pace, 120 steps a minute, 20 minutes per mile, and can go on that for a period of time. I guess my question is that likely to fit your definition of brisk?
I'm going to give you an answer that you won't like, because I don't know the answer, truthfully, to that. Unless your heart rate, the best scientific way to do it is to get a little watch that checks your heart rate. And if you get into that range for your age, you use the formula 220 minus your age, and then multiply that number by 60 to 75%. If you get in that range, that's what I can tell you for certain is what the scientists, whenever they do these articles and they research thousands of people, they actually have to calculate that for everybody. They have to wear heart rate straps, etc. So that, truthfully, is the only way and the best way to actually know you're in the moderate zone.
But I was really focusing on practicality, doability, and continuing to do it 1,000 miles a year. But,
yeah, you're probably getting plenty and plenty of exercise that helps you. Truthfully, you probably are doing everything you need, but I just can't, I don't know for sure. Yeah, no. Thank you.
Thank you. Is Dr. Gundry's olive oil as good as he says it is?
Wow, great question. I can't answer that question. So we know that polyphenols are the name of the game when it comes to why these diets might be so healthy. The more you get, the better it is. And if they measure the polyphenols in that olive oil, and it is truly a higher concentration, then the answer is yes. So we do know that there are some oils that have a higher concentration. Now, does that make a difference? I don't know. Because in the Harvard study, they just looked at extra virgin olive oil and 92,000 people, 30 years, and they found that it worked that well. You know, the risk was reduced that much. So if it is higher concentration, it would be better for you, but without measuring it in a scientific lab, I wouldn't know for sure. That's a great question.
Question. Most of the research involves people in their 70s and 80s. Are they doing any research to see how long we might be living, even though we have some of these problems, if we maintain a healthy lifestyle?
Yes, they are. As a matter of fact, it does seem to, you do have some longevity when you start exercising like this, eating like this, getting your sleep. Yes, the fastest growing age group in the United States are those over the age of 85, as far as the percentage wise. Pardon? Here you go, live forever. Yeah, exactly. But yes, still all of those are associated essentially with longevity and being very healthy. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, ma'am.
The triangle showed olive oil and olives. Do olives replace olive oil? And there were green olives on it.
Yes. You can eat olives instead of olive oil. That's perfectly fine. What we really believe, it's the polyphenol quantity. So eating a serving or two of olives a day would definitely count. Now, here's the problem. The science, it's hard to just get an olive count on people, what they eat each day, but it's very simple to ask, do you eat extra virgin olive oil, and how often and how much? It's easy to quantify that, and that's where they came up with that. A little more difficult to quantify the number of olives that you would need. But I would be happy with that. If you don't like olive oil, please eat a good serving. Probably my guess would be a cupful, maybe a little less. Yes, ma'am.
Hi. I had actually two comments to make, two facts. We were talking about walking here. I just lost a great aunt a few years ago, and she was 101. She danced until her late senior years, walked every day for a long time, and did roller skating until she was 77 years old. And I said, why did you stop? Well, my daughter took the skates away, so it did a lot for her. The second thing is, I heard a medical discussion on TV, it shocked me. I never eat butter since I was a child, it just isn't something I buy. But they said that butter has a tremendous, really strong product in it that is extremely beneficial for the bacteria in your intestine.
Oh.
So, good for your intestine.
Yeah. Well, that's good because I do love butter. Yeah. And that shows too, the dancing, she probably got her heart rate up. She probably sweat while she was dancing. So
She danced on skates, roller skates.
Oh.
She was a widow, and she took her 4 sons to get them out of the house in the 40s, you know, there wasn't any internet. So she took this house full of boys as a widow to the roller skating rink, and while they were skating, she learned how to dance on skates. And she danced on stage to the Grandmothers Club of Chicago, and she had costumes and everything. So she was 77, so she loved the leg activity.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
I noticed that you had a slide up there and you were talking about how you're working with colleges and they get government grants.
Yes,
in order to do
the
this,
prevention study is a big national study run by the U.S. government. Yes.
Are you having any problems now since these colleges are getting cut
Oh,
back?
the grant, no, those funds for Alzheimer's are pretty well set, and none of that. It's more the basic science funding that they've had trouble with, but nothing as far as clinical research.
Second quick question. You talk about getting sleep. I've also been told that if you're taking any kind of a sleep medication, it has an adverse effect on you. It can attribute to getting Alzheimer's. Is that true? Or not
No,
true?
that is not true. Matter of fact, a study just came out a few weeks ago showing one of the sleep aids might lower your risk of developing Alzheimer's. That needs some more research to be proven, but the mechanism seems plausible. So no, if you need a sleep aid to get your rest, I am totally fine with that. Okay?
What was
Totally
the
fine
one
with that.
that might help? Could you mention which one it was? You said one might help.
Yeah, well, there's one called it's prescription only. It's called Lemborexant. Just look up LEMBOR, and you'll find it. Over here, yes.
Back to the AHEAD study. You said that there were 2,000 people, and 1,000 of them will be given the placebo. Do you expect any kind of a placebo effect, thinking that they're getting the right one and they're really not, but the diminishing, the risk of Alzheimer's?
Great question, because placebo effect is actually a real effect. I mean, it's a physiologic effect in some people. So, not in this study. It's powered enough to overcome the placebo effect. I mean, with 1,000 people getting placebo, 1,000 getting the real drug, we should not have any issues, because What we think will happen is the people on placebo will slowly develop Alzheimer's disease, right? Whereas the people on the drug, we're trying to prove that the drug stops them from ever falling into dementia. So it's really hard to fake that or have a placebo effect for that when their memory starts getting bad. So no, we don't expect any placebo effect. Well, what we do see is sometimes a learning effect because we test their memory every 6 months for about 3 hours. They have a lot of cognitive testing and they can improve, they can get better on that. But overall, we don't expect that to interfere with the overall results of that study. Good question. Yes?
There is recently a lumbar puncture procedure that will determine whether or not you have Alzheimer's. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, so there is an FDA-approved test that looks at spinal fluid and can detect that amyloid and tau, the same stuff we talked about. So it can help us diagnose Alzheimer's disease. But the blood test does the same thing. So does the PET scan, essentially. So the nice thing about the spinal fluid, though, is that we can actually measure the quantity, which is a little more accurate in some cases. Plus, we can rule out other disorders all at the same time. So it's still a really, really good test. We still use it frequently, but not as often anymore. And the other thing, too, there's lots of other things that happen in the brain when somebody develops Alzheimer's disease. There's inflammation, so we look at inflammatory markers. There's some other things as well, signs that show the synapses where they connect that aren't working very well, they're misfiring. We can look at all those things in spinal fluid, and we can't with the blood test. So the blood test just tells us, yes, that person looks like they have amyloid in the brain. I mean, nothing's perfect. They're about 97% accurate, so nothing's perfect.
I have a question about the medication. I understand. Sorry. I have a question about medication. I understand it's very expensive and that Medicare will pay, but you have to have blood tests and your doctor has to approve it and so forth. Is there anything different about that, or is anywhere else you can do for medication? Or?
Great question. So I don't prescribe the medication. I just do research on these newer medications that are coming up. Matter of fact, we're already 2 generations ahead of those. The ones that just got approved last year, there's one that we're studying soon that does what the older medicines take about 9 to 18 months to remove amyloid. It works in 3 doses. Yeah, so those are newer ones. We're still in testing. They're a couple of years away, but yeah, so the answer is yes, Medicare is now covering the cost. They'll pay for a PET scan, they'll pay for the blood test, they should, and yeah, the medicines are very expensive, $25,000 a year. In research, they're no cost. We give them to you at no cost. So, and there are some studies that don't have a placebo, but unfortunately, a lot of studies still have a placebo. So it just depends on what we're looking at.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There are some over-the-counter medicines that are supposed to help with that. Is that true, or is that just the way they advertise?
Cliff, can you turn off the camera? No. So, all right. Let me ask you this. If I gave you something and I said it would make you stronger, and you believed it, would you be stronger? You would be. You would physically be a little stronger because you feel it. A lot of these things over the counter, half the people that take them will feel they're doing better with their memory. And guess what? They will actually do better when you give them a memory test. Now, so the power of the mind is real, the power of belief is real. So, but will it cure Alzheimer's disease? No. Will it, so we have to take it for what it is. But if you think something is working, I take a vitamin every day. Most studies have shown vitamins don't do that much for you, but I believe that it will. So I take a vitamin every day, and I'm going to keep taking a vitamin every day. day. So I think that's kind of my answer to that. I'm okay with you doing it, and I'm fine with you taking supplements. Some of the supplements tested didn't work, but you know what? Maybe they didn't give enough in the clinical trial. Maybe the trial was flawed, the way, you know, the evidence, or so, you know, I think there are things out there that we still don't use properly.
I have a treadmill in my house, and I run every morning, so I'm doing the exercise part.
Yeah, do that. Keep doing that, and spend that money on fresh fruits and vegetables, and I think you'll be in good shape. Yes, ma'am.
You're talking about Alzheimer's medicines. What about Parkinson's? Is there anything to get rid of Parkinson's?
Yeah, so, well, not get rid of Parkinson's, okay, but I've got really exciting news. So, we now have the world's first drug. This came out 2 days ago, that there was a big study with this drug that starts to remove the bad stuff that causes Parkinson's. The study failed. 18 months, people were on this drug. It didn't work. However, they kept giving the people the medicine, and those that took it for an additional 6 months seemed to have a 30% slowing of their Parkinson's symptoms. Now, that medicine is called prasinezumab. Don't worry, I can tell you about it later. But there's going to be tested in another big study, a worldwide study with around 3,000 people. There will be a placebo group in that study. So, you know, you can take that for how you want to take it. But yes, the answer is in Parkinson's, we're making progress. There are 3 medicines coming this year in clinical research studies that seem to show promise in Parkinson's. We don't know if they work, so they're all in the testing right now. I just don't want to get your hopes up and tell you we do, but we are actively looking, and I feel confident. This boost with Alzheimer's, you know, finding a drug that actually slows the progression of Alzheimer's is now leading into, you know, Lou Gehrig's research and Parkinson's research and Lewy body research and frontotemporal dementia research, all that good stuff. So, yeah, I'm hopeful, very hopeful. We got them all answered.
I think we did. Dr. Curtis, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
We have a drawing for 2 prizes, so Dr. Curtis is going to pick 2 tickets. But I have to put my glasses on right now. Last 4 numbers, 4318. 4318. Oh,
Wait.
okay.
Wait, Carly, is that you? That was not great.
You won't believe this. The next one's 4319.
A new car?
Yeah, 4319. They're both in the back. Okay, thank you, Ray, and thank you, Dr. Curtis, again. Look forward to the next time. Thank you guys for coming.
Remind us, in case I don't remember this presentation, what website I go on to hear it again?
You can go on to our POAforus.org or villagespoa.org. Okay? And tomorrow, Mike, you can get that to me tonight. Tomorrow it will be posted on our website. We have donuts and coffee in the back. Our next meeting's at Everglades on July 3rd. Hope I'll see you all there. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you can grab brochures in the back too. Yes, sir.